Out of 8 billion people on this planet, one person is the rarest human alive. Not the richest, not the most famous, the rarest. A walking statistical impossibility, built from traits so unlikely that mathematically they should not exist. And by the end of this video, you're going to meet them. But first, let me tell you how I found them, in a dream. You're sitting alone on a park bench on a quiet afternoon when a woman walks up and sits beside you. Her skin is pale as snow. Her hair falls in loose silver curls. Her eyes are a piercing pale blue. You can't stop staring, not out of rudeness, but disbelief. So you ask her name. Abarash, she says. And then, almost reading your confusion, she adds, I'm from a tribe in sub-Saharan Africa. And that's when it clicks. She isn't white. She's a black woman with albinism. And somehow, she is the most striking person you've ever seen. You work up the courage to ask for her number. She takes your phone and types it in with her left hand. The two of you start talking, then dating. She's sharp, funny, endlessly interesting, and impossibly, she becomes your girlfriend. You've fallen for someone who feels like she couldn't possibly be real. Then your alarm goes off. You're lying there, heart pounding, staring at the ceiling, asking yourself one question. Does a person like that actually exist? Statistically, yes, but that question opens the door to a much bigger one. Out of the 8 billion people alive today, what would the single rarest human on Earth actually look like? To find out, we're going to build them, one impossible trait at a time. Let's start with where our person comes from. There are roughly 7,000 distinct ethnic groups scattered across the globe, but humanity isn't spread evenly among them. Most of us belong to a small number of massive populations. Han Chinese alone make up about 18% of everyone on Earth, more than 1.4 billion people from a single ethnic group. But at the opposite extreme, there are ethnic groups so small they could fit inside a single school. The Sentinelese of the Andaman Islands, one of the last uncontacted peoples on Earth, are estimated at somewhere between 50 and 400 individuals. The Kawahiva of the Brazilian Amazon may number fewer than 30 people total. The Spinifex people of the Australian outback were last counted at around 200. For our rarest human, we'll place them in a group of just 500 people out of a global population of 8 billion. That's 500 divided by 8 billion, a 1 in 16 million chance. Our person already has a 0.00000000625% chance of existing, and we've only just started. Now, let's give this person albinism, a genetic condition caused by mutations in the genes responsible for producing melanin, the pigment behind the color of our skin, hair, and eyes. In someone with complete albinism, that pigment production is either drastically reduced or completely absent, resulting in white or near-white skin, hair that can appear silver or platinum, and eyes ranging from pale blue to gray to even pink, depending on how light bounces off the unpigmented iris. Albinism occurs in roughly 1 out of every 20,000 people worldwide. Stack that on top of our rare ethnicity, and our person's odds of existing have collapsed to about 1 in 320 billion. Most people know that green eyes are the rarest common eye color, showing up in roughly 1 out of every 50 people. But that's not even close to the rarest eye trait out there. We're going after something far stranger. Complete heterochromia, a condition where a person is born with 2 completely different colored eyes, like one blue eye and one brown eye. It's usually present from birth, caused by differences in how melanin is distributed between the 2 eyes. And in most cases, it's completely harmless, with 0 impact on vision. It's simply a genetic fluke. And a beautiful one. The odds of having this trait sit at around 0.06%, or 1 in 1,667 people. Next, let's make our person left-handed. Handedness is partly inherited, but no single gene decides it. It's far more complicated than that. In fact, even identical twins, who share nearly 100% of their DNA, still end up with different dominant hands about 20% of the time. Brain structure plays a huge role, too. Most right-handed people process language primarily in the left hemisphere of the brain. Left-handed people, on the other hand, often show more balanced activity across both hemispheres. And here's an interesting wrinkle. In many cultures throughout history, children were actively pressured, or even forced, to write and eat with their right hand, which means true left-handedness may have historically been underreported. Even so, a conservative modern estimate puts it at about 10%, or 1 in 10 people. Combine ethnicity, albinism, heterochromia, and left-handedness together, and our rarest human now has a 1 in 5.33 quadrillion chance of existing. And we're still not done. Most humans perceive color using 3 types of cone cells in the retina, roughly tuned to blue, green, and red wavelengths of light. Your brain blends the signals from those three cones to construct the roughly 1 million colors that make up normal human vision. But a small number of people carry a fourth type of cone, sensitive to wavelengths that fall between red and green. These people are called tetrachromats, and some of them can perceive up to 100 million distinct colors, a spectrum the rest of us literally cannot picture. Because the trait is tied to the X chromosome, tetrachromacy shows up almost exclusively in women. About 12% of women carry the underlying genetic mutation, but only a small fraction of them actually develop functional tetrachromatic vision. Researchers estimate true tetrachromacy occurs in about 1 in 40,000 women, or roughly 1 in 80,000 people overall. For our final trait, our rarest, human remembers everything, every single day of their life. This condition is called hyperthymesia, or highly superior autobiographical memory, the ability to recall an almost overwhelming level of detail from nearly every day they've lived. Not just the big milestones, but ordinary Tuesdays, random conversations, what they had for breakfast on a random day a decade ago. The condition was first formally identified in 2006 by neuroscientist James McGaugh after a woman named Jill Price came to him describing something that sounded less like a gift and more like a curse, an inability to stop remembering her own past. She described it as a non-stop, involuntary replay of her entire life, playing on a loop she couldn't switch off. Fewer than 100 confirmed cases of hyperthymesia have ever been identified anywhere in the world. Even generous estimates that include undiagnosed cases put the global total at only a few hundred people, making it one of the rarest cognitive traits ever documented. Conservatively, we'll place the odds at 500 out of 8 billion, 1 in 16 million. Let's put them together. This person belongs to an ethnic group of only about 500 people. They have albinism. They have complete heterochromia. They're left-handed. They're a tetrachromat, able to see 100 million colors most of us will never know exist. And they remember every single day of their life in perfect, inescapable detail. Combine every single one of those odds together, and the total probability of this person existing comes out to roughly 1 in 6.83 septillion. Let that number sink in for a second. Scientists estimate there are, at most, roughly 1 septillion stars in the entire observable universe. If you tried to reach 6.83 septillion by counting grains of sand instead, you would need about 910,000 planet Earth's worth of sand to get there. That is how astronomically rare this person would be. And here's the wildest part. This isn't even the rarest person we could theoretically build. We haven't touched rare blood types, unusual body mutations, extremes of intelligence, and dozens of other traits that could push the odds even further into the impossible. There were simply too many to fit into one video. But here's the real point of all this. Every single one of us, in our own way, is the product of an almost unbelievable chain of coincidences. Genetic, historical, and just plain lucky that had to line up perfectly for us to exist at all. You didn't need septillion to 1 odds to be rare. You already beat odds like that just by being born the exact person you are, in the exact moment you exist. So yes, there are plenty of fish in the sea, but there is no one else exactly like you swimming in it. Keep on swimming.